Hi everyone, this is a complete walkthrough of the employee attendance tracker template. If you have not purchased this template, I will leave links in the description box so you can go ahead and grab your copy. When you purchase the template, the first tab you will see is the instructions tab. Here you can find my contact information as well as a detailed step-by-step guide to show you how to get started with using this template. For the rest of the tutorial, I have switched over to the demo copy so that I can show you exactly how this template works. As you can see, the next tab, which is the setup tab, has been completely filled out. Here's where you will type in your employee information. It has been filled with example names. Delete this and then type in the employee name, how you want it displayed in the template. Next, we'll set up the attendance key, and the attendance key is what we're going to use to track the employee attendance. The attendance key has two main sections. We have this first section here that's green colored, and these represent working days, such as employee coming in and staying for the entire shift. This section has to be used for working days. The other section represents non-working days. It could be a planned absence holiday or it could be rest day. If you wanted to keep track of days where the employee is not assigned to work, you can do that as well, but you have to use one of these categories. You cannot put it here because that would not be a working day. So let's say you wanted rest day to be designated using R and change this to rest. This automatically updates throughout the entire template. So this means that you can change this to whatever you want, just to not change this section that says working days versus non-working days. It has to remain like this for some of the calculations to make sense. We're going to skip the dashboard. We'll come back to it. This template comes already set up January through December. You don't have to duplicate copies. It's already set up to be used for the specific months. We'll start with January. As you can see, the dates are displayed from the first of the month all the way to the end of the month. These areas that are grayed out are the weekends. The next area I want to show you is that these are hyperlinks. If you are in January and you want to go all the way to September, you can click on that. It takes you directly to September. We're going to go back to January by clicking on the hyperlink for January, and it takes us back. Here, the key, so you don't have to always go back to the custom tab to view what the key means. And as you can see, rest day shows up here because we changed it from holiday to rest day. So if we were to go back and change this back to H and change this to holiday, you can see it automatically updates here, and not just in January, it updates for all the months in the template. Next, I want to show you the start date here. I would advise you to use this template from January 1st through the 31st, but let's assume for some reason you don't want to count the days from January 1st to January 4th. There are two options. First thing you can do is just not put anything as those dates, so just delete it. And then you can start the calendar from whatever dates you want to start the calendar. An alternative would be to change the start date. I don't recommend this because if you do this, then some of the dashboard information might not be 100% correct. And I'll show you what that means. So let's say you want to start it January 15th instead. Okay. So when we go over here, you can see it starts from January 15th, which is fine. And then let's say you do want February to continue in this space. You can go ahead and click on this checkbox, and then it starts counting February when January ends. So essentially what you have here is a 31-day calendar that starts sometime in January and then ends 31 days after in the following month. So this would work if that's how you want to use the calendar, but I would caution you because some of the information in the dashboard area that has been calculated is calculated based on month. It's not going to take these dates into consideration. So just wanted to keep that in mind. It's best to set the information up such that all the dates in January show up in the January tab. All the dates in February show up in the February tab, and there is no overlap. So I will go ahead and change this back to January 1st and uncheck this so that we have this tab fully dedicated to January. If you go to February, you can see that it will show up by default 29 days in February. 2024 was a leap year, so we'll have 29 days. But when the next year rolls around, you can change this to February 2025, and then we end up with 28 days in February. Next, I want to show you how to add the employee name, because when you purchase this template, it is going to be blank. It will look something like this. There'll be no names, and you don't have to type a number here. This will automatically show up when you select the employee name. So I'm going to go ahead and select the first employee, and as you can see, the number 1 shows up, the second one, select the third one. Let's say I go ahead and select the fourth one, but I mistakenly select the second one. You can see that it turns red, and this is telling me that this employee has already been selected and I need to select somebody else. It prevents you from entering the same employee information more than once. After you've entered your employee name, you can start tracking their attendance. Let's say this employee was present all throughout the week, no problem. And then for Saturday and Sunday, this employee is not working, so we can go ahead and select rest day. Now, if you're using rest day for something else, so you're using it for holiday or designated for another reason, you don't have to enter rest day. You can always leave it blank. And that would mean that, so every time you have a blank, that means that the employee is not working on that day. So it's really up to you how you want to use it. After you've completed the data for your employees, you can scroll all the way down and you can see that we have a summary table here. And this tells you how many days the employee was present, how many days they left early, how many days they came late, how many days they were absent, or whatever it is that you've changed this to. And of course, how many rest days they have. If we scroll all the way down to the template, you see that we have a summary table here that gives you the number based on how many you have selected here. So for example, we have 20 P's for present. So if I change this from E to P, you see this number changes to 21 and these from 2 down to 1. So this just gives you a sum of the entries that you have selected for that employee. And here we have the percent present, and this number is the number of times present divided by the number of entries here. So in this case, this employee has been on time and present at work 77.8% of the time. So if I change this to present, you can see this number increases. The percent worked is calculated based on the working days. So if you remember, these three are working days, PAL. So if we go back here, these are working days. So it will be the sum of this divided by all the numbers here. So essentially it would be 23 divided by 27, which gives us 80%. For this calculation, the rest day is excluded because it does not represent a date that the employee was meant to work. And then we have the absence, which again is these 2 days divided by the total. If you want to include the rest day in this calculation based on how you have edited or customized your template, I'll be happy to change the formula so that it reflects how it works best for you. So just send me a message and I'll be happy to help you with that. And as you can see, the rest of the templates work the exact same way. One thing I want to show you is that you see these error messages we have. This is because we have changed the key. So every time we change a key in the custom tab, it will change the items that we can select here. So right now, H is showing up as an error because we don't have H showing up here. We've changed it from H to R. So if I go back to any of the tabs that originally had H, you're going to see an error message. So if I want that message to disappear, change it to R and it goes away. So anywhere that I have H, if I change it to R, that error message goes away. If you see that, it's just notifying you that whatever you've selected is no longer selectable. The other thing that happens when you customize the tab is that these colors change. You can see how R doesn't have a color assigned. To fix this, click on the arrow. Okay, now you can see all of them have been assigned a color. And by the way, if you want to change the colors around, here's where you do it too. Okay, you can select from these colors or you can customize the colors further here. And so let's say if you want to change this to yellow, you can do that and change these colors to whatever you want. And now the one that doesn't have a color assigned, you can go ahead and assign it a color and click done. And when you do that, it's going to ask you, do you want to apply it to all the drop downs in this page? And of course, the answer would be yes, apply to all, and it will change the drop down colors in this page. Unfortunately, you do have to change the color individually for each tab. In order to change it for March, for example, you have to go to March, click on one of the cells and change the colors here as well. Moving on to the dashboard, this is a summary of all of the information that we have entered in this template from January through December. The dashboard is divided into 3 parts. The first part here on the left-hand side is used to view information for a specific employee. The middle section is where you can view information for all of the employees put together for months or for the entire year. And the last section on the right-hand side gives you a list, top 20 employees based on certain criteria, and we'll go through each one. We'll start from the top. Here's where you can select the month that you want to focus on for the specific employee data. So we're going to start with January. So change it to January. And as you can see, it changes it to January 2024 because the current year is 2024. If you were using this template, for example, in January 2025, and you select January here, it would show up based on the correct year. Here is where you select the employee name. And here it says Garcia Andres. I'm going to change it to a different employee so you see how it changes the information. So select Smith Aisha. And as you can see, it gives a breakdown of her information for January. So this employee was present for 81.5% of the time, and then the rest of the time she was either early out or absent, as you can see in the pie chart. This information is also displayed in the table here. And finally, this table right here is a summary for this specific employee for the entire year. So in January, she was present 85% of the time. She worked 85.2 days, and she was absent for 14.8 days. So it takes this information and it summarizes it for the entire year. So you can see that it shows up January, February, all the way through December. And it highlights January because that's the month selected here. If I change this to April, okay, this information changes to the data from April as well as the information in this table. And you can see April now is highlighted here. That way you can keep track of their monthly performance as well as their yearly performance. The next part of the dashboard is a navigation bar. You can use this to navigate to the different months in the template. It highlights the month that's been selected. April is highlighted because April selected here. And if I were to change it to February, you can see February highlighted here. Now, this shows you how many employees are working in February. So we have 16 employees. And if you go to February, you can see we do have 16 employees scheduled to work in February. The next graph shows you the annual attendance performance summary. You can see for January, we have 13.5 as the average present, and for absent, we have an average of 3.8. This gives you an average for all of the metrics we're tracking for every single month of the year. As you can see here, the average was a lot lower for present at the beginning of the year, and as the year progressed, the average increased. The next is also an average of all the employees put together, but it's broken down by month. That way you can compare the average for all the employees. For this employee for February, you can see her performance here and you can compare it to the overall performance of all the employees. So her present score for February is higher than the average for all of the employees. And then you can also compare and contrast how all of the employees performed for the entire year. The last section is where you enter your business logo and view some more tables. We'll start by editing the logo section. Just delete the logo that's already there. Click on insert image in cell, browse, and then select your logo. So just assume it's your logo, select it, and then it automatically shows up here. This table here shows you the top 20 present scores for your employees for a specific month that has been selected here. So in this example, we have February selected here, and you can see the top 20 scores are displayed here. This name is highlighted because that's the name that has been selected here. And the last table here displays the top 20 present scores for all employees annually. It takes an average of all of the scores for the employees and it orders it from the best scores to the worst scores. That way you can keep track of who is doing well for each month and who is doing well for the entire year. Before we wrap up this tutorial, I want to show you what your template is going to look like. So if we open the dashboard area, it's going to be completely blank. And this is because we haven't entered anything in any of the months. As you can see here for January, it's completely blank except for a name, just to show you that the employee name goes here. And of course, when you change the information in your setup tab, it will show the current employee information, but this is left here so you know what it's supposed to look like. And as you start entering information in the monthly tabs, the dashboard tab automatically be updated. That brings me to the end of this tutorial. Like I mentioned before, if you have not purchased this template, I will leave links in the description box so you can go ahead and grab your copy. You can find my contact information here if you have additional questions. And remember, there is a step-by-step guide in this template that you can also refer to if you have questions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.